moment to breathe, grab a beverage or two. We got professional guests with lots of stories for you. So take a seat right here and join us on Careers Over Beers.
Yeah, it's a thing that seems to be a recurring theme. Somebody always, sometimes it's me, jumps into the serial killer world. Because, I'm a big fan of shows like Dexter, too.
I am, too. Have you been watching the new Dexter?
No, not yet.
It's interesting.
Not yet.
It's interesting. He has other people killing for him most of the time, though.
Does he?
He's not doing a lot himself. The first episode he did
Is it
one,
as good as it was? Or is it different? Don't ruin it for me.
It's different. It's different. I can't say that it's as good as it was. But, think about it. That first season of Dexter was really, really bad acting, and it was terrible. But you fell in love with this guy, and then it's a guilty pleasure. It's
bizarre how
you love going for a guy who's a murderer.
I know it's bizarre how much you fall into that world, and you're like, I'm rooting for this dude now.
It's the strangest thing.
All righty, folks. Well, we're already into it a little bit talking. So, welcome to Careers Over Beers podcast. I'm currently pouring myself an IPA right here because we have an IPA fan in the house.
Yes, hops, bring it, bro.
Bring the hops out. Big hop fan?
I am. I like it when you can smell the floral notes. Unfortunately, I had COVID about a year ago, and that means that sometimes my nose doesn't work anymore, and I go to smell things, and I don't smell anything.
So it's hit or miss. Sometimes it works fine. Sometimes it doesn't.
And sometimes it's kind of like a superpower, like you're cleaning up your child's poop, and you can't smell it. That's kind of I
would call that
awesome
a superpower,
thing.
yeah. You don't have to deal with that anymore.
But it comes and it goes.
The thing is, though, in your mind, you still know you're handling with poop, right?
It's very true.
So you remember what it smelled like.
I do. Yeah. Very distinctly remember what poop in your head smelled like. I've had 3 kids, as you know, and so, yeah.
But sometimes you can't smell an IPA, so that sucks, too.
Yeah. I like it. I like that smell. And, of course, the bitters. I just, in college, I did a lot of drinking of, like, Bud Light and Coors Light.
Right.
And back then, I don't think they even had IPA, maybe because of how old I am. But about 8 years ago, I had a friend who said, try this. I think you might like it. And at first, I was like, it's really bitter. And then I was like, I dig it.
Really?
And suddenly, bitters are cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like coffee or something else. You know, you just kind of get that acquired taste, and you're like, all right, this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Finally an adult.
Kind of. I try to be.
Today, we're drinking Walnut River High Beam IPA. So,
that's great.
Unfortunately, like I said before the podcast, I tried to get the beer of your choice, which is... the
Wizard of Hops from Central Standard Brewing Company.
Central Standard Brewing Company. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. We couldn't find it, so we ended up getting some Walnut River and some Wichita Brewing Company. Both make fantastic IPAs.
Yeah, we got some good brew pubs here in the Wichita area for sure.
Yeah. So I'm kind of on the same page. I really was never an IPA guy. I'm still on the fence about it. Mm-hmm. I don't consider myself an IPA guy, but more and more I find myself out. I'm like drinking an IPA again. I'm like, huh.
You're still growing up. Maybe one of these days you'll grow into it.
Well, cheers, sir.
Cheers, sir. That's really good.
High Beam IPA. That is nice. Yeah. That's a really good IPA, actually.
It hits you on all sides of the tongue.
It does.
Boom, boom.
Yeah. It's a funny way to describe things, too.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know what you do.
I'm Matt Weber. I'm a vocal music teacher. I've been teaching vocal music for about 19 years. Most of what I do is high school and middle school vocal music, but I also work with adults. I have a men's chorus called the Smorgaschorus, which is we call it contemporary acapella, but really it's barbershop quartet music is what it is. And I've been doing that for about 20 years. It's taken me all over the world. I mean, I've had the opportunity to direct my high school choirs in Italy and different parts of Texas and Tennessee, different parts of the U.S. And then the Smorgaschorus, I've competed in international competitions in Florida and Las Vegas and Utah and Nashville, everywhere.
Wow, taking you all over the place.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool.
Was that something you expected when you started doing that?
No.
Not at all?
No. It's weird. I remember being young and hearing music on the radio that had close harmony, like Boyz II Men or even like Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. It has some really close harmonies. And I remember looking at Mom and saying, I love that stuff, but I don't know what it is that I love about it.
You didn't understand it. You're like, I hear that and I like it a lot.
Yeah. And then in high school, I didn't sing for like the first 2.5 years in high school. I mean, I was in an overloaded team sports class my junior year. And my mom had always said that you have a beautiful voice. So I went to the counselor, and the first thing the counselor says is, can you sing? And I said, well, my mom thinks I can. And so he said, you're going to try choir. So I went to choir, and very quickly I realized I like it a lot. I mean, first of all, it's fun to perform. Second of all, usually there's 2 girls to every 1 boy. And at that time I was looking for girls.
It's a good way to pick up chicks. Yeah.
So that worked out really, really well.
Hell yeah. So you didn't even know that you had this talent before you did it?
Not really. I mean,
just kind of dove into it, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I knew Dad sang well, and I just knew I loved music. I loved hearing it. I love close harmony specifically. And so West was great, which was my high school. It was cool to sing for a year, and then my second year, about halfway through, I was in. They very quickly moved me in the top choir, and the choir teacher was like, "What you going to do next year, Matt?" And I was like, "Oh, probably work at Service Merchandise," which was like a showroom type of thing that they had going at Town West at the time. And he said, "No, we're going to get you a scholarship to go to college to sing." And I was like, "Nobody's going to pay me to go to college." And he was like, "You're wrong. They are." So I went to college and got a full ride scholarship to Butler. Got a decent scholarship to WSU, but I went ahead and took the Butler full ride because it was free. So
wow.
I sang there and had a good time singing there for 2 years, and then went to Wichita State. And while I was at Butler, again, I was kind of just struggling. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I had another choir teacher. He stepped up. He said, "What you going to do next year?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "You're going to go to WSU. We're going to get you a scholarship," and he got me a good scholarship. And then at WSU, I was kind of just floundering around that first semester. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was missing a lot of classes and just taking a look at the landscape of what careers are out there. And a guy named Bud Boughton, it was his last year teaching there, and he's a choir teacher, and he was like, "You know what, Matt, you've got a lot of potential. So here it is. Either crap or get off the pot." And I said, What does that even mean?
Whoa.
He says, "If you're going to do this thing, go all out with it." And so I said,
that's a great analogy. I love that one.
So I decided I'm going to go all out with it.
Wow.
And so I started teaching.
So it's all just kind of fallen into place for you. People along the way have pushed you and said, "Do this, we'll do this." And you're just kind of like, "Oh, okay. I'm here, I'm floating.
Yeah.
I'm here for it."
Yeah. And it's choir teachers mostly. And so it's like you kind of want to become the people who have
you have that mentorship type relationship, and then now you're in a position like that, and you get to do the same thing for kids that you have.
Yeah. I see every day I talk with students, and I see in them, some of them specifically, I see them, I'm like, "Emily, you'd be a great teacher. You've got leadership skills. You see people where they're at. You want them to get better, and I see it in the way you act. You'd be really great at that." And then you see other kids who aren't worth a crap, and I'm like, "Okay, well, just stay right there in your seat and don't talk." So
and don't sing.
Yeah, so I lip sync a little bit.
Do you have kids that come along occasionally where you're like, "Wow, you just shouldn't sing"? That's not something that you're really built for.
I was kind of talking with Kim. Kim is my wife. I was talking with her about this yesterday because she was talking about her friend who doesn't think she can hear pitches because she's all over the place. And from my experience, my 20 years of experience says everyone can hear and can match pitch. They just have to listen to themselves.
I don't think my dad can, though.
I think, like your dad, I think so. Sometimes I think he listens to everything else going on, like he's maybe listening to the basses or listening to the drum or listening to the guitar, and so he's not paying attention to the sound that's coming out of his mouth.
It's possible.
But there's also possible that he just cannot hear it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not there.
I think that'd be a true success story. If we took Pat and got him to sing.
If you got him to sing on pitch and it actually sounded decent, yeah, I think that you would peak right there as a teacher, right?
I think so, yeah. I was about to say, could we make it a bet maybe? Maybe I could take him for a day, and if I got him to sing on pitch in a barbershop quartet, you could buy me 2 6-packs of beer or something. Maybe that would be fair. I don't know.
Yeah. I'd be all in on that one.
I bet you.
If you could get him to agree to do that.
I don't think he'd go for it.
No, I don't either. Because he knows it's not there.
Yeah. He's funny. He's the one who Pat likes to make up words for songs.
He does.
Like he hears the complete wrong ones. He goes, "Carry on my wayward thong." We're like, no, it's my wayward son. Oh, okay.
Oh.
"Peace be still when you are grown." No, that's not it, Pat. That's what it sounded like.
There's that other one too. That's "I just want my piece of pie." I don't remember which song that was. Or, Caribbean Queen.
Caribbean Queen.
He thinks it's Caribou.
Caribou Queen, of course.
Caribou Queen.
Why not?
Why couldn't there be a Caribou Queen?
They were into hunting. They were.
Yeah, they were. There could be a Caribou Queen out there.
Might have been from the north.
Yeah.
In Canada. Shooting some caribou. Oh, yeah. Why not?
Yeah, it's hilarious. Some of the stuff, man, he's just not musical. No. Doesn't have it.
But he makes up for it in other ways.
He does.
Areas. He's a good man, hard worker.
He is a hard
father.
He is a great father.
Dad.
And he has this clap too. Have you ever seen that? Whenever we're really getting into music, and every now and then he'll occasionally jump in and try to participate when we're singing a song, and he just has this one clap where he waits, and he's like,
got it.
Yeah.
Like
That's it.
Like he's killing a fly.
Like he's killing a fly, but it's on one beat. And he's like, yes, I hit the beat. But
Pat.
only once.
Poor guy.
Yeah. No, he's a good dude.
Do we need to establish that you and I are related?
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, you're my
Yeah,
uncle for
yeah.
everybody out there listening right now. That's how you know my dad.
For a very long time.
Yeah.
For at least his whole life.
So you can attest to this, that my dad doesn't have very much musical talent.
He doesn't, no.
But my mom does and my brother does.
Yeah, whole family has really got music.
Whole family is very musical, yeah. So you actually had that growing up too, is you grew up in a family of music.
Yep. Yeah, my dad, he loved to sing in church, and I remember trying to emulate him, trying to get in front of Grace Baptist Church and sing the songs he sang, and yeah. And then I played cello for 8 years, which is something a lot of
Did
people,
you really?
A lot of people didn't know that, yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
I was terrible at it. It's one of those
Really?
things, when you're playing a stringed instrument, you got to practice. And I just didn't want to. I wanted to play Tecmo Super Bowl or whatever video game.
Right, yeah.
So I played at school, but then I'd get home and I would never touch it. Now, the other side of that is I learned how to read music through that. And so when I got into vocal music later on, it helped me out quite a bit.
Did it?
Yeah.
How important is it to know music and be able to read music as a vocalist?
As well, there's a lot of vocalists who don't read music; they learn it by ear. And there are people, they have different modalities. Some people are visual, some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic. They want to feel things. And as a teacher, you want to try to meet all of those people and try to teach them all to read, because if they can read the music, it makes it a lot easier to teach it. But there's a lot of vocalists who I think just pick it up by ear and just go out there and perform it.
They just run with it.
Yeah, no, instrumentalists can't do that. Instrumentalists have to learn how to read it, and they have to learn how to push the right keys or the right armature to make it happen. And so that's why it makes instrumentalists usually a little bit better than vocalists when it comes to music theory and those types of things.
For sure. Do you have students that come along, though, that just nail it right off the bat, and you're like, oh, you don't need to be taught anything, really, as far as reading music? Or do you still try to incorporate that?
I try to get us all on the same page for the most part. Some people, they walk in and they can look at it and just sing it. Some people come in and they're used to using numbers, like a number system, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some people use solfege, like do, re, mi, fa, so. Mm-hmm. And so I just try to get everybody on the same page with it. And then, of course, as like a freshman in high school or sophomore, I want to make sure that everybody can do it at a basic level. Not that I expect them to compose something like Mozart or Beethoven, but I need them to be able to read in order to make the team, the ensemble, sound strong.
Right.
And it is somewhat like a team sport. I mean, we do competitions, we go different places. That's the reason Smorgaschorus, which it's my men's adult group. That's the reason that we travel all over the places, because we go to these international competitions. They have international competitions.
That's amazing.
For barbershop quartets and barbershop choruses.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah, it is. But a lot of people, when they hear it, they immediately say, okay, so it's like 25 old guys in a ballroom sitting around. Way to go, Sonny! Here's your trophy. That's not at all what it's like. I mean, it's like,
no, it's a legit competition.
You're in an arena. Yeah, you're like, and we in Las Vegas, we performed in the what is it? It's the Britney Spears arena, the place that she performs that has 45,000 seats, and we had about half of it full, so 25,000 barbershop fans there, huge space.
Wow.
And there's an MC out front. He's kind of talking and joking, and then he says, all right, please welcome the next chorus from South Central Kansas. And they all start clapping. The Smorgaschorus, and the lights come up, and then it's like it's on.
Holy shit. So it feels like a legit concert then.
It does.
When you're up there.
And they go nuts. Like these people, even if you're a really bad quartet, they still, they like cheer you on and clap, and they treat you like you're a rock star when you're just singing 4-part harmony. It's the weirdest thing.
Are these just random people that buy tickets like a concert?
No, most of them
or are they all
enthusiasts.
Yeah,
or they have family and friends who are part of it. And oftentimes, like, for instance, if you're singing last in the competition, 14 choruses, you're the 14th chorus. All the other choruses are now out watching you. So there's that added pressure because they're out there judging you.
You know,
like,
that your competition.
They're thinking, I'm better than this. We're better than this.
We're better than them.
But Smorgaschorus is better than everybody. We're one of the best choruses in the world. We finished 16th in the world in 2017.
Cheers to that, sir. Yeah. Hell yeah.
It's a weird name, Smorgaschorus. That's another question.
How did you get that?
Okay.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So at Butler Community College for the last 30 years, there's been a quartet called the Smorgaschords, which is just 4 guys, and each year they re-audition, and Butler's a 2-year school, so they basically change the quartet out every 2 years. And in 2011, we had a big convention here in Wichita, the Orpheum, and we decided we wanted to honor our teacher, Valerie Mack, because she'd been at that point teaching for 19 or 20 years. And so as part of the convention, we said we're going to put all the former Smorgaschords, guys who sang in this quartet, together, because they were all like just hanging out in the Wichita area.
And that was one of you too?
Yeah. So we brought them all together. And they're 30 guys, and they sang really strong. And the people at the convention went nuts for it. They're like, that is amazing. So after we got done with it, and we gave her a plaque and said, thank you so much, Valerie. We were like, why don't we do this all the time? This is a lot of fun. I mean, all the guys have a lot in common. We all have kids. We have careers that are similar. We all love drinking beer, so we go out a lot and drink beer afterwards. And we're like, why don't we just do this all the time? So we started doing it all the time. And about 6 months later, there was a competition up in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we went and we won that thing fairly easily. And we started winning all these contests and going to these different conventions and having a lot of fun. And people started saying, you should go to the international competition because you're good enough to be one of the top choruses in the world. You might not know this, but there are probably 2,500 choruses in the world, barbershop choruses in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're all competing to be the number one barbershop chorus in the world.
So you guys had no idea when you first started this thing. You were just rolling with it.
We were just rolling with it. And we were one of our goals, our mission statement is to enrich music education in our area, and we have a lot of teachers in the group and stuff. So we were doing that, but then we were like, can we really do this? So we went to Las Vegas in 2017 and finished 16th out of 2,500 courses in the entire world. And we're like, what the crap? This is insane.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Honestly, congratulations to you guys. That is super cool.
And we just keep doing it now until COVID shut everything down. Now we haven't been able to do a contest for the last 27 months, something like that.
That's amazing. So where does the name Smorgas even come from?
The Smorgaschorus, which is that Butler group, it just basically means a bunch of different guys from a bunch of different backgrounds, guys who might not ever hang out, guys who might not ever be even friends,
they just get
coming together to make music. And we do a variety of music too. We try to do, we do the barbershop stuff. We do a little bit of jazz. We do some gospel. We've done even some like Maroon 5, like Sugar. Let's please, try to do a little bit of sexy stuff, sexy barbershop, which is tough to pull off.
Yeah, for sure. If you're just paving the way for new territory, though, why not run with it, right?
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to just stick with the old school barbershop stuff. No. Although people do love it. Every time somebody sees a barbershop quartet standing there on the corner or singing at like the fair, they stop and they're like,
it's
holy
nostalgic.
Shit. The sound, the harmony, a lot of people hear that just like when you were younger. People like my dad, too, even, who are like, I know what that is. That's cool. I like that. That's harmony, right? When it's perfect, it sounds fantastic.
When it's not perfect, it
sounds pretty bad.
Nothing worse than that.
The Beatles had fantastic harmony, don't you think?
Yeah. We've been watching, there's this it's not a new series. I think it was a documentary from 1968 or 69 of them.
Peter Jackson.
Get Back. And it's really intriguing.
Yeah, Peter Jackson.
If you haven't watched it, I would encourage you to watch it. Because I think he had 180 hours worth of film that he tried to cut down into this one series that's now on Disney Plus, and just to watch them in their creative process, because they had to come up in a 2.5 week span for this movie. They had to come up with a whole concert, and so they started creating.
It's pretty amazing.
They're just sitting there and they're screwing around and they're making fun of other people. They do a lot of like joking, like they're like trying to sound like.
I've seen portions of it too. Yeah,
it's crazy.
And you hear Paul and he's like, not even saying words.
They're just screwing around, and then suddenly Paul's like, "When I find myself in times of trouble,"
it's just perfect.
Then he goes, "We'll figure out what that one is later." Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And everyone just stops and they're like, "Okay, that's a song.
Okay,
we're gonna go with that."
Yeah, this is happening. Yeah. And moments like that too, when you just know, okay, it's hot. Something magical is happening right here.
It's the magic of music, man.
Yeah, that is amazing too. And watching them just interact with each other and joke, even like as a broken band, because they were basically a broken band at that point, right?
Yeah, very much.
And they're still joking around. And another thing that cracked me up is that people used to always say, "Oh, your lyrics are so deep. What are these meanings? Like, what is this subliminal message inside of this Beatles song?" And, when you watch them do their creative process, you're like, oh, these guys are just kind of
they're just
throwing in lyrics like, hey, I think this word sounds good in there. Throw it in.
It's a dance, man. And when it comes to like creating music, if you're in a high-level ensemble like that, and that's one of the best ensembles in the world, obviously, it's a dance. And when they've been together at that point for 14 years, I think. And so they knew how to dance to create the music. You can't just take 4 artists and throw them together. They knew how to dance. Now, George Harrison, he didn't like the dance. And I don't want to give anything away, but he was ready to be gone during the entire session. And he was very talented. He's a great songwriter, but they weren't using any of his music.
Poor Georgie.
Yeah, it's not fair.
He was the third, just the third wheel Beatle hanging around. It was Paul and John for the most part.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. And, even Ringo just kind of sits back there for a while, and they'll screw around and they'll start making music, and he's like, okay.
Ringo's just like, peace and love, peace and love.
Yeah.
I'm just here for the beat.
That's it. And of course, Yoko Ono is in that one.
Oh, God.
And it's funny because, like, some of the stuff that they say during the video is prophetic. Like, Paul, at one point, Paul's like, many years from now, they'll look back and they'll say, Yoko Ono's the reason that we broke up. They're laughing like, You know
Yeah.
what? That's actually what people believe.
Yep. Now being called a yoko is a thing. That's a term that they use for some women that break up friend groups or whatever it is, right?
Very common. Yeah.
Do you guys actually write any of your own music?
We don't, but we have a lot of stuff arranged for us. In fact, I spoke last night with a guy named Steve Tramack who lives up in New Hampshire, and he's a pretty amazing, prolific arranger of barbershop and acapella music. And we were talking about Christmas charts for Smorgaschorus for next year. So we just finished up our concert last Saturday. We're already looking ahead to next year.
Wow.
But we talked about All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey.
Ooh, banger.
Well, and the funny thing was I heard an acapella group do one recently, and I was like, it sounds awful acapella. You got to have the drums and stuff to make that song work. And also, it's just not really a manly song. So then we started talking about Grown Up Christmas List by Michael Bublé's arrangement of Grown Up Christmas List, and he's going to arrange it for us. And he's just like, I just want you to tell me what exactly you want. So I spent 45 minutes last night talking with him about what I want for the intro and what I want for the bridge, and if I want key changes and all that type of stuff.
Okay.
And so he's going to arrange it for us. We've had people pretty much all over the U.S. arrange songs for us. Our first contest in Las Vegas, we did 2 Stevie Wonder songs, Another Star and Lately, both arranged by my buddy Ben McDaniel, who lives out in I think he's out in Atlanta, Georgia now. But I mean, we've had a lot of charts done custom just for us. Just recently we did some Greatest Showman stuff from the movie The Greatest Showman. Did Come Alive in a Million Dreams. And
So you get to put your own twist on things still and kind of make it your own.
yeah, even when they give us the arrangement, I go through it and I decide what I want and what I don't like. And
Yeah.
most of the time, I've told them already what I want, so they put it into the arrangement. But we'll go through and I'll listen to it and I'll play through it, and we'll have learning tracks made for it, and then we'll just kind of make decisions on what we want. And then sometimes you get it up there and they start singing it, and you're like, I don't like the way that sounds. Let's redo that completely. And luckily, we have flexible enough musicians that can do that.
How do you recruit somebody for the Smorgaschorus?
So the Smorgaschorus, yeah, that's a tough one.
You turn down people? Is there
Well, there is an audition process, and there have been people who haven't gotten through the audition process.
Is that right?
We've never told anyone don't come back. That's never been a thing.
Yeah.
But typically we look for people, number one, who love music and are highly motivated to work hard, because we have to work really, really hard because we only see each other once a week, and we have this huge rep of music. And
So you just meet up once a week and practice
Yeah.
all year basically for this one
Yeah.
big competition?
yeah, and for shows and,
And
for
for
youth
sure.
and harmony festivals and stuff. But we have high aspirations, so we see guys that are motivated, guys that love music, guys that like to be challenged, guys obviously who sing well most of the time. Very rarely do guys make it in a group who don't sing well, but most of the guys who are there want to sing and have worked
Right.
at it for a long time. The audition process is typically the first night I listen to them, just kind of see what part they would sing. We have 4 parts in barbershop. We have the bass, we have the baritone, we have the lead, which is the melody, and then we have the tenor, which hangs out above the lead. And then after that, we typically hook them up with our website, which is called Groupinizer, which has all of our songs, all of our learning tracks, all of our rehearsal plans, our calendar, videos, pictures, everything that you could ever want to be part of the group. And we tell them, this is the song you need to learn, and whenever you're ready to audition with it, then you let us know, and then they audition in a quartet.
Oh, okay. And that's how they really prove themselves, is with a quartet.
And then usually, almost always after the first audition, we say, okay, that was pretty good, but here are the things we want you to do better. Go home and work on them. And they come back, and if they've improved on the things we said, then we're like, this dude's definitely, and then we give him the paperwork, and he signs up, and he's part of the group.
Is there a certain size that you have to keep the Smorgaschorus to?
Nope. It can be as
It can be
big
as
as
big
we
as you
want
want.
it. Yeah, in fact, a lot of the choruses, it's pretty incredible that year that we finished 16th, because we had 42 on stage, and the choruses that finished ahead of us had 120 and 160 and 180. So
Really?
there's a lot of really big choruses.
At some point, it's got to be too hard to manage, though, when you have 200 people, right?
Yeah, because, I pride myself on having individual relationships with each and every guy.
Yeah.
You get up over 100, it becomes harder to have a regular ongoing
They say you
talking
can only
to
have 150.
Yeah.
There's a max point for human beings just even
Agreed.
interacting with people.
Agreed. I would imagine it gets, when you have a chorus that has 180, it's fairly impersonal, and you probably feel like you don't hardly ever get a chance to talk with the leadership if you're in that chorus. You might have the guys around you talk with, but you don't know the guys in the front. And there might be a lot of guys in the chorus that don't know each other, and I think that's a sad thing. Because really, if dudes are dedicating their time for the social aspects of it as well as the musical aspects, you want to know everybody and you want to live life with them.
You would think so, yeah. Just like part of what made the Beatles great is that they were like siblings together, you know?
Yeah.
They knew each other so well. They knew their writing process. They knew exactly, when you look at John and Paul looking at each other, like they're connecting in a certain level. It's the same thing almost probably when the group of guys you're performing with.
Yeah.
You want to at least know them and know what's going on.
Yeah. It's an important thing. It's an important thing to have relationships. And of course, again, like I said with the Smorgaschords, the reason we do it is we might have guys who might not ever hang out, but we come together because we all love the music, and that's a pretty cool commonality.
And you get to
have.
travel and stuff.
We get to travel.
Hell yeah.
But Vegas was a blast.
I know, right?
Really
That's a cool aspect of the job. But your full-time job is a teacher.
Yes, full-time teacher at Wichita Collegiate School here in Wichita, Kansas. I taught public education for 11 years in Wellington and Wichita West High School. I loved both of those gigs. Collegiate's kind of the dream gig.
Yeah.
Because you have
Private school.
It's a private school. You have students that are thoroughly invested in their education because they know their parents are sacrificing
financially
like crazy.
invested.
Well, and even the parents that are well-to-do have to sacrifice quite a bit. I mean, because it costs more than college. I mean,
I know, that's
you would
crazy.
spend less to go to WSU than you will to spend 1 year as an 8th grader at collegiate.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
Wow.
So
My dad would have hated me if he sent me to that school.
there's a lot of parents at collegiate who are like when they hear that their kid's going to stay in state for going to college, like sweet, that's like
Yeah.
a huge reduction in tuition.
Wow.
But it's an amazing gig. The school has always achieved highly at fine arts, athletics, and of course academics. That's like the number one thing. It's a college prep. I mean, you have a lot of kids who
supposed to
go
be top tier.
out to East Coast, West Coast, go down to Baylor and just different great universities. Not to say all of them go to those. Some of those stay in state, and that's cool. But they're highly motivated to, they're all taking AP courses as sophomores and juniors and seniors. It's hard to get them in choir because they want to take all AP courses. They don't want to take the extra, like a fine arts course. Some of them say, I get my one fine arts credit, so I'm good. And then I'm fighting them like, no, we need you to keep singing with us because we have these things we want to do, and we can't do them without you,
That makes sense, though, yeah, that they would have that mentality.
Yeah, so it's tricky.
But you're trying to make that better, right?
Yeah.
Or it's something that everybody wants to be a part of.
Well, yeah, and part of that... Part of it is talking to them about like what you can keep doing with music the rest of your life. Obviously, when you're in school, if you're playing a sport or you're singing or playing an instrument, you might think, well, this is the only time I'm going to do that. With singing, as I show with my men's course, you can keep doing it the rest of your life, and it brings joy to your life, gives you meaning, allows you to have relationships with other people.
Yeah, camaraderie, all the guys, doing the Smorgaschorus, traveling around.
It's a very
just
positive
singing to
thing.
yourself.
Heck yeah.
Singing
in the shower.
Sometimes you need to sing in the shower.
I mean, just driving even up here to Colwich. I was like singing in the car just to kind of relax because not that I had a stressful day because I didn't have to teach today. I was very relaxed, but just while you're driving and traffic's kind of crazy and stuff, just singing a little bit and just kind of letting your blood pressure come down and letting your brain waves kind of chill out a little bit. It's pretty cool stuff.
Wow. I mean, that's something like for somebody like you that's into it that far. That's your meditation, right?
For sure.
That's your workout.
And I have to do it regularly.
Do you?
I mean, yeah, it's just part of my daily life, especially if I'm getting stressed out by stuff. I just have to sing.
Plus, people always like a good singer,
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm a great singer. I'm a decent singer. My wife is the great singer. She's the one who can. Luckily, most of the time when I sing, like at church and stuff, she's singing with me. So everyone's like, they walk up to us and they go straight to her and they're like, you are so amazing. They look at me, they say, good job. They walk out. And that's cool. I mean,
well, I think you're an amazing singer too.
Well, you're very kind.
No, you're very humble. You don't kid yourself. You're a very good singer. I mean, obviously, look at your credentials.
Yes, sir.
And are you the leader of the Smorgaschorus?
I'm the director of the Smorgaschorus.
The director.
I've been since day one.
Yeah, so you're the boss man.
I am. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But we try to take it easy, try to play it cool. We don't, it's not about egos. It's not about anybody trying to be better than anybody else.
Right.
It's just about having fun and progressing,
So for like kids though, when you're talking about getting them involved and getting them motivated and everything, you have students obviously probably that are very unmotivated or just straight up not willing to do much.
I would say when I was at West, yes.
How do you deal with that?
That was a regular thing. And in fact, when I got to West, they had a pretty good sized vocal music program. They weren't singing great, but they had a good sized group. And I told the counselors in the first year, I was like, if you have a kid who just needs a fine arts credit, like a knucklehead, maybe who's not doing well in other classes, put him in choir. Put her in choir. Because out of every 5 of those, usually I can win 2 or 3 of them and keep them in and get them to change their attitude and change their perspective. It takes a lot of one-on-one conversations, though, with people. Anytime you're dealing with groups of people, even teenagers, even middle schoolers, you have to be able to go to somebody individually, see where they're at, meet them where they're at, and then try to motivate them or just have an eye-to-eye conversation. When you have a kid who's rolling his eyes and not giving you his best effort, or giving her your best, she's not giving you her best effort, you got to ask and see, what's going on? Because a lot of times I found out at West, they were dealing with stuff outside of the classroom. They just brought it in. And automatically your mind says, oh, they don't like me or they don't like my class. Well, that's not it.
They're just dealing with some heavy stuff at home, probably.
Yeah, somebody got kicked out of their house. Somebody didn't have a chance to eat breakfast. Somebody's sibling punched them right before they came in. And if you can meet someone where they're at, understand why they're feeling that way, and then let them know that you care. Usually you can motivate them to do the right stuff. But there were kids occasionally who I say, okay, this is not the place for you. And that was when I was at West. Collegiate, and when those kids come into the choir classroom, that's their break for the day because they've been working really hard at academics all day. So when they have a chance to come in and sing and just be part of a group, generally they give me 100%. I rarely get
sing and cool down and use it as, like you said, just driving out here and cooling off,
meditation,
clearing your mind. I mean, that's got to be unfortunate and sad to see kids that have problems at home and they're bringing it into school.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that?
There's only so much you can do. West, it felt like a missions field for me, just because you'd have the kids. I think at the time it was 91% free introduced lunch, which meant that 9 out of 10 kids were living in poverty who were coming to West High, and at the time I think there were 1,700 kids. So. There's things you can do and things you can't do. You can see that a kid is hungry and you can give them a Pop-Tart if you have it with you. You can send them to the social worker and have the social worker meet with them. But I generally don't like to send kids out of my room because I lose the power at that point. I like to keep them in with me. If you have a kid, we had Larry, I'm not going to say the last name, Larry, 12 years ago, who was coming in and he was smelling really, really bad every day. He was not showering, obviously. He was not cleaning his clothes. So I bring Larry aside and find out he's living out on the streets. He's not even living, no roof over his head.
Oh, man.
So then we have to start talking with, okay, how can we get this kid into some kind of foster home? How can we help him with his clothes? We have a washing machine downstairs at the school. Let's wash his clothes for him. And just tell him, you will not walk into the school with dirty clothes. If you have to call me, if you have to text me, whatever, we will make sure that you walk in with something clean so that you're not automatically at a deficit. So, I mean, those are some of the things.
That's
a lot of times
stuff.
we spent a lot of money, a lot of donated money, I should say, on like concert outfits. And for almost every single concert when I was at West, I would go pick kids up and bring them to the concert because their parents wouldn't do it, or their parents were working and they couldn't get there. So those are some of the things we did.
Well, that's another part of it too, is the parents sometimes are the asshole, not just the kids, right?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, you take that kid to the concert, you buy their outfit, you make sure they have a meal, and you go drop them off, and they're sitting there on the front porch, smiling at you as you drop their kid off, and you're like, where were you? Why weren't you here to support your kid? And that's really frustrating, but you can't. I mean, that's out of your control.
It is out of your control. Yeah, it just sucks to see.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and then you also have the new agey parents, right? That are just like, my kid does no wrong.
Yeah, helicopter mom, she is always hanging out and watching, making sure her baby's being taken care of.
Right.
That is pretty regular. And the hardest part, is when you want to do like an audition for a musical or something, and there's 80 kids coming out for the musical, and all the kids and all their parents think that their daughter or son should be the lead of the musical.
Of course.
And you don't have that many lead positions.
Well, my little Timmy deserves it, right?
So you have to communicate like crazy and say, understand that we can't give everybody a lead. We want to give everybody a lead, but we can't. We will be totally fair with who we pick. These are the expectations. If they can meet these expectations, and if they've been part of the show for 3 years, they're going to have a little bit more of seniority because this might be their last time to be in a show. Please understand that. We'll be glad to talk with you once we release the list.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we do. And we've had some really rough conversations with parents who come in and they just don't understand. They're like, well, I know my daughter's amazing. And I'm like, your daughter's amazing. She's an amazing singer and she's going to do great things over the next couple of years. But this year,
there's somebody more amazing
this
for
is
this
the
part.
show we picked, and this is the roles that we put them in.
The world's getting more and more like that too. It's gonna someday they're just gonna have a play that's no leads. Everybody's the same position, right? They can
all just sing the lead.
We're all gonna start together.
We'll all be Annie. Tomorrow, everybody go. It'll be the weirdest show ever. But they all have the red dresses.
You'll have 30 Annies sitting out there, and they can all be Annie. Every parent's happy. How much has the world changed? And you've been a teacher for how long total?
This
now?
is my 19th year.
19th year. Yeah. How much has the world changed in those 19 years? A ton?
Yeah. One of the major changes is like cyber technology.
Yeah.
I had to do a training just yesterday on cyber safety, not allowing criminals or people on the outside, hackers, to have access to our system and to our school. Mm-hmm. And so there's you'll get phishing stuff all the time where they're emailing you and saying, they even talked about, you get an email and you're like, somebody's like, yeah, I'm the associate to this person who
right,
and they're like, and I really need help with this. Can you send me his password or his log in or whatever, because I really need to get access to this. And some of that stuff's really stupid. You're like, of course you wouldn't do it. But then there's other things that could easily slip in there. Please, we need you to update your emergency contacts. Please click on this and do that. Well, you can click on it and suddenly you have malware in your computer. And
Exactly.
it's sitting there waiting to take over.
They're getting sneakier and sneakier, man.
Yeah.
And as the years go on, they're hitting those heartstrings more and more, trying to find things in your personal life. And there's even cases. I had a cybersecurity guy on here that was talking about some of the cases they've dealt with, where they'll email like an older lady or something and say, your grandson's been in an accident. You need to click on this link right now to find out where he's at. And they fall into these traps. And a lot of times they do their research, find names of their family, find names of the people they associate with or work with. And it gets to be sneaky stuff.
That's crazy.
It's getting scarier and scarier.
That's a big change from 19 years ago. Additionally, with technology, like right now, and part of this happened with COVID, all of my students have all their sheet music on their Surface Pros, their laptops. Part of that was 2 years ago. The thought process was you don't want to hand sheet music back and forth because you can pass the virus back and forth. So we immediately said, okay, we're all on tablets from now on. So I email a PDF or I share things with them through Google Drive, and then all their music is on there. But what's nice is I can like write on my music and then send it to them, and they see everything that I want them to do. They don't have to write it in.
That's super cool.
So that's different from 20 years ago. We use a lot of learning tracks and a lot of recordings to help out. We didn't do that as much 19 years ago. The students, obviously they're into their phones, and we had phones.
Just like the rest of the world, though.
Yeah,
Adults are into their phones now, too.
That's true. We had phones 19 years ago, but they were Nokias. They
were chunky flip things.
Yeah, they weren't things you were going to be like, you weren't going to spend a lot of time playing video games on, because the video games were like Pong. They were really crappy.
Hey, that was good stuff.
That was good stuff. But so that's probably the biggest thing, and we just have to make it really clear when you walk into the classroom that the phones are put away, unless we have them out for a reason. Like sometimes we use them for surveys and different types of things.
So you guys will even incorporate that now in school?
Oh, yeah.
Where you have surveys and you say, bust out your phones?
Yeah.
See, that's changed a lot even from when I was in high school, which was not that long ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That was when cell phones were just becoming a thing, though, like smartphones especially.
Yeah.
And you weren't even allowed to have it. You had to lock it up or leave it at home or put it in your locker. So that's different.
There are a lot of teachers, some of the old school teachers specifically, who when they say when you walk in, your phone goes in, and they have like a shoe rack on the wall, and you put your phone in a different pocket or whatever. And that's fine. But there's a lot of teachers, a lot of savvy teachers. You're like, we can use that, so let's use it.
It is a good thing to use if you use it correctly. You know, it's really useful, really helpful. Students, though, they haven't changed too much over the years, as far as their attitudes or their.
I do think, like what you were saying is probably right. There's more entitlement going on.
A little bit more entitlement.
People are more wrapped up in themselves than they are the community around them, and that's a sad thing. But I think we've all changed. I think post-COVID, pre-COVID, we're different people now. I will say this year has been pretty stressful because it feels like the expectation is that we're going to make up for everything that we lost last year. So it means more work for all of us.
So people are trying to hit it harder.
So that's been kind of tough, and there's been less grace because they gave us a lot of grace early on. We went to like virtual schooling.
Yeah.
I mean, they were very kind with us during that first couple of months. Like for vocal music, I would only ask to see my kids on Zoom maybe once a week at first because we were still figuring things out. We hadn't, we didn't have a curriculum for vocal music online. So I was like, I'm going to see you once a week. We're going to sing through some stuff. We're going to talk about some things. We're going to take a look at some projects. And so that was that first 9 weeks. That was like right at the end of 2020. But then we hit 2020, 2021. And a lot of the public schools stayed virtual. But the private schools, we went ahead and said, we're going to go with it. And if a person is sick or quarantined, you would just put them in the classroom virtually. And so I had that day in, October of 2020 where I walked into my classroom and there's like 5 people there. I'm like, what is going on? They said, Mr. Weber, turn on Zoom. Click on Zoom and there's 14 people on Zoom. So I'm like, okay, so this is going to be really interesting. So then I have everybody on Zoom mute, and I had to say sing along with the kids here. And so they did. And then I call out, Ariana, can you sing that last line that they just sang, and have her sing it back to me? Okay. I said, I like that, Ariana. This was good. Here's something you can do better. Can you try that? Sing it again. And it turned into kind of a masterclass format where you hear each individual sing or ask each individual to show us whatever we had just practiced, to show that they can,
I was wondering about that because I was going to say, can you do harmony? Can you get people to sing together virtually? No, really.
It's not possible. There's a lot of software that they were working on when everybody was virtual, both in schools and also in courses like Smorgaschorus. We did 9 months of all virtual. and they were trying to come up with ways to do it, and there just really wasn't a clean way to like enjoy it. Eventually, they turned into like a drive-in format where everyone, this is for community courses, everyone would drive in and they would all have a microphone in their car, and they would all sing, and then they would turn on their radio to a certain station, and it would have the whole group singing on that station.
I could see that working.
And so it kind of worked.
Not the same though.
No, and that you know, we do this for the social aspects as well. If you can't physically be close to people and touch base with them, it's very difficult to be motivated to do it regularly.
It kind of ruins it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I get that for sure.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like a student that you're working on and you're practicing with, would you say as a music teacher that it's more important for somebody to have a good voice, or let's call it the ability to sing, or the ability to learn to sing?
Well, as with, you know, going back, I love using the sports analogies. You can have a super talented basketball player. I mean, the kid just has natural ability. His parents were athletes, and he can just play. But if he doesn't have the desire, the attitude, or the willingness to improve, then there's a ceiling for him. If you have a kid who's got moderate athletic ability, but highly motivated to learn and willing to be critiqued and willing to be brought along, that kid probably will end up better off than the kid who has the natural talent. The same way in vocal music. Kiddo comes in, they can sing like crazy, but if they don't have the attitude and they don't have the willingness to listen and to accept criticism and to grow, they're not going to do as well as a kiddo who comes in who has an average voice, but really wants to do well and will listen to you and will allow you to kind of shape them and mold them. And that's really what I do every single day. I mean, I love it at Collegiate that I have the opportunity to do a lot of one-on-one work with kids and help them improve individually.
You're basically molding people into better forms of themselves.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the voice specifically, if somebody has just a terrible voice or it just is not good to listen to, it's not appealing.
Yeah, it's tough.
Is it possible to make their voice better?
It depends on if there's a physiological thing. For instance, if a person has a ton of drainage on their voice, and this is just on a day-to-day basis, obviously you're not going to have the vocal folds vibrating in the way that makes the best tone. It's just not going to happen because you've got stuff draining on them. And if a person has a physiological issue, like let's say they have a paralyzed vocal cord, they're just never going to sound as good as a person who has both vocal cords. It's never going to be great. And I've rarely in 19 years run across somebody who has something physiological where they can't sing, or a hearing thing where they can't hear.
Right.
Because that'd be the other part of it. If they can't hear, if they're like deaf in one ear or hearing loss or having tinnitus where they're hearing a ring, they're probably not going to sing on pitch. But that's rarely happened. That's a very rare thing.
Those are all like defects though, right?
Yeah.
Is there a time, let me ask you this, is there such thing as a bad voice?
I don't think so.
If there's nothing wrong with your vocal cords? Or
Every voice is different. Every voice is special. Most people will say, oh, I wish I had that voice, or I wish I had that voice. And that's a natural thing. That's a human nature thing. But each voice is special, and each voice can be learned to be used in a very efficient and beautiful manner that can be appealing to the ear. I believe that wholeheartedly. I've had kiddos who came in who didn't sound good but still got ones at contests, a state contest or regional
contest. Is that right?
Yes. So it can be done. And it takes a lot of problem solving.
That's why there's people like you, though, right? Yeah. That's hopeful.
Yeah, I think anybody can sing.
Yeah,
straight up.
Because when you dig into it, like if there's nothing actually wrong with your vocal cords, or your hearing, or something that's gonna physically prevent you from being better, when you get into that, is there such thing as a bad voice, or are there just voices that people prefer to hear over others? So
the average thing, this is every day of my life for 19 years. A kid comes in and they talk to you like this, and they have a really nice talking voice. Then they go to sing, they go, and you're like, okay. So say this, Hodie Christus. And they go, Hodie Christus. I say, okay, now sing the line, Hodie Christus. They go, Hodie Christus. And I go, okay, now, can you hear the difference? And most of the time they say yes. Okay, so I say 3 more times. Say, Hodie Christus. They say, Hodie Christus. Say, now sing it. They finally usually get it. Hodie Christus. That's what we want. Now do the next line. And then it just becomes that.
Using their full voice?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, use your speaking voice. I mean, that's really...
Because most people try to go to this thing up in their head.
Yeah. Because it's funny, because what we oftentimes hear when we're singing is not what everybody else hears outside. And that's probably the biggest
thing. For sure,
yeah. And you'll play a recording of yourself and be like, that doesn't sound like me. And everyone's like, no, that sounds like you. That's what you sound like every day. But if you have a teacher or a clinician who can stand out there and say, okay, do this, if that's what you need to do every time, well, then you can do it.
Because they're the ones actually hearing it
Yeah.
real time. They're not in your side of your head
Yeah.
hearing this false voice that you think you have.
Yeah.
I feel that for sure. Just editing these podcasts, I listen to my voice and I'm like, oh God, can't stand it. But it's just one of those things.
You've got a good voice. You could sing very well, sir.
I don't think I could.
Come out to Smorgaschorus sometime.
I might have to try.
Bring Luke with you too. We'll have
Alright.
pizza for Luke.
You want to? I would like to learn how to do harmony really well because I really only know how to sing the same pitch higher or lower.
Yeah.
But to sing, it's a different.
Harmony is more about, it's as much about feel as it is about hearing things. For instance, when you lock up a certain interval or certain two notes, there's harmonic expansion that happens where it sounds like there's more notes than what there are. They're called overtones. And when you can hear those overtones, sometimes you can feel the overtones when you're really getting into it. And if you don't have it quite right, you're like, what do I need to do to make this in tune and to give those overtones? Oh, just sing a little bit higher, and then get it, and suddenly it rings and you feel it, you know. And that's what you'll see barbershoppers singing what they call tags, which is like the dramatic ending to a song. And you'll see when they get that dramatic ending and it just rings like crazy. You've heard it before.
Oh,
All the
yeah.
overtones, they're like, oh.
Gives you the chills. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, wow.
And then you just want to do that over and over
That guy
again.
nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, vocal range, though, some people are very limited in that aspect, too, right?
It's true. Well, it's like working out a muscle. The more you do it, the bigger it can get.
Is it possible? So it is possible to like get my range higher if I
Yep,
wanted to sing
it
higher?
is.
Whereas right now I'm like, Max, another right here.
So you've got, I'll assess you briefly here. You've got your chest voice, your head voice, and your falsetto. You've got all three of those, which you've heard about because you've taken vocal music before. If you don't use them, you lose them. So a person who speaks totally in chest voice all the time will oftentimes not be able to go up into the falsetto or the head voice, which is kind of like like if you're calling someone across, you're like, hey, that's kind of your head voice.
Hey.
And if you don't use those, you lose them. But they atrophy like any muscle, right? Like if I'm not working out my biceps, they're going to atrophy a little bit. But you can always come back and get them going again.
That's
just
strange.
practice. Like I had a kid named Matt Copeland who plays football now at KU, and he came in and he had like 3 notes. He could sing, that was it. Since puberty, that's the only 3 notes he had. So he and I spent 3 years just getting him to stretch the range, and a lot of it looked like this. Ooh. Ooh. And I told him, I said, you keep doing that, but don't do it when people are around you. Because they'll see this giant 6'8" guy doing that, and they'll be like, what's wrong with that guy? I said, but what you're doing is you're just stretching that falsetto. And eventually I got him to where he could call people, because when he called people at first, he'd go, And I said, no, say, hey. And eventually he got to the point where he could go, hey. And then once you get those 3 registers, you have to learn how to blend them. Anyway, it's a long process.
Yeah.
But it can be done.
I didn't know it was like working out where you could actually fix it because my brother plays the piano, you know.
Yeah.
And he would laugh at this when he'd be like, Jesse, try to hit your highest note. So he'd play do 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 do, and I'd go la 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 la. At the very end, it would go. Can't go any higher, man. He'd go,
Yeah.
just try though. I go.
You gotta be real careful. You'll poop your pants there.
Really?
Or-
That brown note.
The brown note. You don't want the brown note. Or get a hernia. Neither one of those things are no fun. No bueno.
But I've never had a problem with like low notes. You know, like
Yeah.
Johnny Cash.
Yeah. Most guys do. Most guys, they like the way that sounds. You know, that resonance, that ring.
Well, Johnny Cash had that ring, like it was special.
Taste of love is sweet. You know, it's, just,
Yeah.
it's gorgeous stuff. I have this kid right now who's an 8th grader who, when he sings in choir, he sings like, what was the one we did over Christmas? Weather outside is frightful. And that's all he wants to do. And I'm like, no, your part is weather outside. He goes, okay, weather outside. But then he plays in a rock band, an 8th grade rock band, and he'll sing, wah, wah. And so now I'm trying to get him to use that in choir.
Oh, really?
Just taper down the brashness.
The Guns N' Roses type.
Yeah, just get him to relax the mouth a little bit and become, instead of, you know, and it's working, but it takes time because he's an 8th grader.
Yeah.
8th grade boys are boneheads, so.
Oh, I know. I remember.
He used to be one a
I
couple
did.
years ago.
And when I look back at that asshole, I'm like, what were you doing? You're such an idiot. I'm going to get into one of these V6s.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Wichita Brewing Company V6 IPA, folks.
Dude, they've got some good stuff. They've got a Mad Scientist 7 right now. They come up with that about every 6 months, a different Mad Scientist. And this one is a brown ale, but it's got hints of vanilla in it. And it's super high.
I'm about that.
It's high IBU, so you can't drink too much of it, but it's really tasty. And I dig the, like, when you get the vanilla tones or the coconut things and stuff going on in beer. It's always interesting.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that too. I like stouts as well. There's some of those dark vanilla, dark chocolate ones that I've tried. I'm a fan.
So I don't know if I should give it away. I had a friend from work give me a Boulevard Brewing Company. It was a barrel-aged stout.
Yeah.
But it was called something double stuff. So even on the label, it looked like a cookie, like chocolate chip, not like chocolate chip, like an Oreo cookie.
Like a double stuff Oreo?
Oreo, yeah. And so I was like, this is going to be interesting. And I drank it, and it was cloyingly sweet. Like they added so much sugar to it.
Super heavy.
After the barrel or in the barrel. I don't know. It was not good, and I hope the lady who gave me that beer doesn't see it, because it was really sweet of her to do that, but I did not like it.
Well, they're okay in small quantities. I had a guy come on here that works at River City Brewery, and he brought a German chocolate cake beer that they made, which it was like 14%, like basically drinking wine.
Yep.
And dark chocolate, really, it was like chocolate syrup almost,
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of.
It's really good in like a small quantity, but if you try to drink a whole, whatever this is, 22-ounce glass.
Oh, no good.
No.
Maybe you poured over ice cream or something. I don't know.
Maybe
that would work.
Maybe.
But yeah, and out of a bottle, I didn't love it.
Yeah. Who would you consider to be the best vocalist of all time? Can you pick one?
The first thing that pops in my head is my dad, Eddie Weber, because he's been my model forever.
Cheers
I never heard Eddie make a mistake vocally. He was always right on. But if we're talking professional singers, people who can just absolutely sing right now, Bruno Mars is my favorite.
Bruno Mars is your favorite?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he did this thing with the band. I can't remember the name of the band now, but they did Leave the Door Open like 12 months ago, and he's so money. He's clean with his tone, and he's so expressive, and he sounds amazing in whatever register he's singing in. Bruno Mars is the bomb.
Well, somebody like you also listens to that stuff, and they listen to it a totally different way than the average person does, right? Because you're listening for all that other stuff. You're listening for what octave he's in, what tone.
I mean, the best part is when you can get into something like that, like a video, or you're watching it, you're listening to it, and you just forget about all that. And you're just like, just
taken away by it.
Yeah, an aesthetic experience because of this amazing singer or amazing instrumentalist.
There's some people that come on to like America's Got Talent like that. Sometimes I'll watch clips of that on YouTube. I don't watch that show really, or I'm not into shows like that very much, but they do have vocalists on there sometimes that I'll see on YouTube, and I'm like, wow, that person just blew me away listening to that,
Yeah. I mean, there have been gentlemen like Freddie Mercury from Queen who could sing so high with, again, it sounds effortless. It doesn't feel like he's trying real hard. There's recordings I hear occasionally, live recordings that probably aren't popular, like Carey Underwood singing "How Great Thou Art" from like the Country Music Awards 2011 or something, and I just get goosebumps every time because how beautiful it is and how effortless they make it sound when they're doing stuff that's very difficult, but it comes across as easy and it's beautiful.
You know what else is interesting about like Freddie Mercury is that a lot of people that are famous especially use layers of their vocals. And now that's nothing. Somebody goes into a studio and they record a track and they layer it on top of each other to make it sound more crisp, right? Isn't that what that does?
Yeah.
Just makes it sound cleaner and crisper.
Yeah, it rings better when you have the same timbre in all the parts. It's cleaner.
It rings better. So one thing that I read one time was Freddie Mercury would actually record songs over and over and over. And back then, that was probably the 1980s, late 70s.
Yeah.
He didn't have the technology to just take a track and layer it.
Nope.
So he would go into the studio and sing like the same thing 10 times in a row. And it was so perfect you couldn't even tell when you listened to the song.
Yeah,
it's like layered vocals today.
Yeah, you watch Bohemian Rhapsody, you see how cutting edge Queen was with their approach to their creative process. They were just trying anything they could to make it different, make it fun, make it beautiful, and at the same time sell records. And they did a great job.
Yeah, layering those vocals, that's kind of a neat trick that people have.
Yeah,
people don't realize that.
I saw a TED Talk once where a lady she had this whole setup that had a keyboard and had a looping machine and had a microphone and everything else, an amp, preamp, and she just creates this whole orchestra like of her voice and of all these beats and stuff.
Yeah,
and just keeps looping and just creates this whole thing.
I've seen stuff like that before too.
It's incredible,
amazing.
I can't imagine. You have to practice a lot
it's just all
to get
voices.
That all to work out.
Have you guys tried ever doing anything with that in your course where you have like people doing the instrumentals too with their voices?
What we've done, yeah. I mean, depending on the song, like for instance, we did a "Don't Stop Believin'" back in 2014.
Oh, actually, I heard that one.
And
yeah,
we had
that was
we had a guy
amazing.
beatboxing, then we had the basses laying the doom da da doom ba da doom sound like a bass, and then you had the other parts doing what would kind of sound like keyboard, but also kind of sound like guitar. So you change your timbre, you change your vowel to make it sound like an instrumentalist. Then you have two vocalists come walking out with spotlights and sing the "Just a Small Town Girl." It was really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah,
You watch the Pentatonics. That's basically what they do every day.
I do remember seeing that now. That's super amazing when you actually see it in person. All of the stuff going into it, all the different parts.
Yeah. It's incredible.
You're gonna do more stuff like that, you think?
I think so. I think, if there's always the possibility that the Smorgaschorus never gets to do a contest again. I'm kind of starting to feel like maybe that's the way it is, because there's always people who are like, well, if there's a chance somebody can get sick, then we can't do any more contests. So we might not ever do a contest again. And if that's the case, that's the case. But I do think we're going to start to gravitate more towards just doing songs that we love as opposed to songs we feel like will do well at contest. And that includes experimenting with more popular music. And for sure, finding ways to show people off with solos and duets and stuff like that.
Well, I hope it gets back to normal at some point, even if it's years down the road. I mean, because small aspects of life like that, especially people in your position, you're like, man, that sucks if you have to miss out on certain things like that forever, if it can ever come back fully.
Yeah.
So hopefully it all comes back to normal at some point.
I hope so too, man.
Little things like that make life better, right?
They do.
Just being in person.
We're competitive. We like to know that we're as good as we think we are. We like to go against other groups and it creates just an adrenaline rush. And
when
so
you're going against 250 other groups, you got to have that in you, right?
Yeah.
You got to be like, we're the best.
So we miss it. That was part of. I think early on, that's what kept the course going, was the contests. But obviously over the last 5 years, that's not it. We're more about brotherhood. So it's all good.
Hell
We
yeah.
love it.
Do you have anything else you want to say about teaching or being a vocal teacher or vocalist or?
I will say, I think music is for everybody, whether you're a listener, whether you participate in it, whether you teach it. It is for everybody, and it can enrich everyone's life. It's something I hope to do for the rest of my life, whether it's working with high schoolers, working with adults, working in the church choir, whatever. And I thank God, and I thank my dad for introducing me to music, because without him and without our Heavenly Father, we wouldn't have it. So
exactly.
I would encourage everybody to support music education, whether it's financially or just going to the concerts and clapping for the kids. Support music education. And
support music, bringing music in everybody else's lives, because it is a drug.
Yep.
I've talked to people about this before. It makes you feel different. It makes you feel, you can put on a good song and it gives you those goosebumps, or it puts you in a different mood even, right? It's basically a drug. You're doing something to your brain when you listen to music and when you sing music. And there's been studies even that show that kids that listen to music early on, there's something there that with their developmental stages that makes them, I don't know if it's necessarily smarter or more intelligent, but there's something there that just gives them an advantage over other people in life.
There are neural pathways that are opened up regardless of your age, especially for little ones that you might not have opened up if you're not listening to music regularly. And there are dopamine hits you get from good music. You feel good.
I know. And most people don't get that. Did you know that? Where you get like the goosebumps? I know you get them probably.
All the time.
Yeah.
Getting them right now.
I think that a certain portion of the population doesn't get that at all.
That's crazy to me.
My dad doesn't for sure. I mean, I've told him before, do you ever just hear a song and you're like, oh man. And he's like, the hell are you talking about? Over a song?
That sounds about right. That sounds just like Pat.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing, man. Life without music would be so boring, wouldn't it?
I agree.
I can't imagine a life without it.
Nope.
So let's keep on bringing it to people. Let's keep on educating people about it.
Yes, sir.
And I'll be a big supporter of you forever, obviously.
All right.
Your chorus and everything that you do. So thanks for that. You want to shout out any social media handles or anything like that?
I don't have a lot of social media handles. I'm on Facebook, and Smorgaschorus is on Facebook. We have a website, smorgaschorus.net. Smorgaschorus is one word, so check that out. Wichita Collegiate School, WCS.net, I think, also has some really great stuff with our high school, middle school, elementary school kids performing. Just support music education, y'all. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. Why not, right?
That's right.
Makes life better.
It does, for sure.
Thanks for everything you do, man. Thanks for making the difference in everybody's lives that
cool.
you do.
I'm glad it could be here.
All the kids that get to learn under you, they're so blessed they don't even know it. And we're grateful for that as a community and as a world even. So thanks for all you do, and keep doing what you do.
Heck yeah.
Cheers, brother. Should I say unk?
Sure, Neff.